You're here today with Mitch McDonald and Richard Gayton. And Mitch is a producer, an actor. Um, I don't know what I am. I'm a psychologist sometimes, I'm a writer sometimes, I'm a filmmaker sometimes. Um, you can catch my book, Love and Country, uh, on Amazon and elsewhere. Catch our movie, Mitch and we made a movie together, Love and Country, about two gay men during the Vietnam War who fell in love. Today we're back discussing transgendered issues, and I'm going to let Mitch take off with that. What are you thinking, Mitch?
All right, so I'd like to start off talking about the issues in Minneapolis, Minnesota, with the Catholic Church shooting there. I don't want to go into details with the shooter herself. Her issues are her issues, and I agree that we need to keep the spotlight off them even when they're no longer with us. But I have a question for you as a professional, as a psychologist. Obviously, as a trans individual going through the process, she was being cared for by psychologists, by psychiatrists, by her doctors.
Yes.
What is it about that process where they're taking the time to determine if she's stable enough to go through the transition, but clearly they were not paying enough attention to whether or not she was stable just as a person? Where's the responsibility of her psychiatric team that she wasn't on anyone's radar for issues that had to have been visible? It feels like to me, obviously neither one of us has access to her records, but it feels like this level of violence should have been visible on somebody's radar.
You would think so. And the research has gone on for decades about this. That is the ability and the skill of mental health professionals to predict violence in others. And we're really not very good at it. Unless that person wants to reveal it very directly. And sometimes we found that some of the young people that have gotten guns and gone to schools and killed children, they revealed it in their pictures, something they've drawn, or they reveal it in their internet searches, or they've revealed it even by talking to their parents. These are all very overt revelations of someone who's dangerous, who's violent. Psychologists have really no magic way, no special skill to determine if someone is violent or not. I mean, we can give extensive psychological tests that might show up violent tendencies, or it might not. So this idea that we can prevent violence by evaluating people to see if they're violent or not, well, I wouldn't want to be in that position. I was a Navy psychologist. I'm at Oak Knoll Naval Hospital. A young man was on the inpatient service. I don't know why he was there, but he was sort of bounced down to me in the outpatient where I was, outpatient service, to follow him. So he dutifully comes in for his one session. I think it was on a Friday. On Sunday morning, I pick up then we had newspapers dropped on your porch. I think it was the San Francisco Chronicle or something was dropped on my porch. And there's the picture of my patient on the front page, and he has murdered a lieutenant commander at Alameda Naval Air Station that weekend. And of course, on Monday, they wanted to talk to me about the whole thing. He revealed none of that to me. I didn't ask him directly if he was going to go murder someone. I probably asked him basic stuff like, how are you? How are you? Do you feel like you're going to hurt yourself or others? But if people are going to, I felt, I can still remember it very vividly, that I felt some responsibility, some guilt for that. Like, I should have known. But then I went investigating it, and there really is no real way to know. If that person isn't actively revealing that along the way, even in ways that you would see, with the kids you work with, or the way that it would be revealed to a parent, or to a friend. I'm the friend. It's probably much more powerful that a friend or a loved one, parent, sees this person getting guns, and yet the whole part of our world has lots of guns. People have. Well, when I was growing up as a kid, we had, I'll bet there were 6 or 7 major firearms in our house. And that's really common all over America now. People have lots of guns.
Right.
So what would we even know? That a transgendered person gets a gun is no more remarkable than if a white minister of the church buys an AR-15. It's no more remarkable, no more indicative of anything. I'm kind of going on and on here. But when you superimpose over this the current hatred, the current fear of transgendered people, now it suddenly becomes
the administration. I don't think the public in general has a huge issue with trans people. There are a lot of people for whom the situation is being blown up and they over respond to it. We had I think it was 2 episodes ago we discussed the 35,000 trans people across the United States, maybe possibly a lower number than that, between 28 and 35 I believe was the number we hit. That's a tiny number, and at the same time the number involved in collegiate sports or high school sports is infinitely smaller than that. Not infinitely, but quite a bit smaller than that. At any given moment, we're only talking about maybe 10 kids across the whole United States. So we're blowing it way out of proportion in order to create.
So why are we blowing it? There's that question. Why are we blowing it out of proportion?
Because people like Donald Trump understand that small-minded people need a target. Give them something to fight, and they will happily fight it. And actually, not even give them something to fight. Give them someone to believe is doing them wrong, is somehow harming them. Those 10 athletes out of, 3,000 school districts across the United States. Those 10 kids are coming for them. Those 10 kids are going to destroy their children. Those 10 kids are out running around in bathrooms trying to molest other students. It's they're just trying to give meat for their circus.
Yeah, or it's the story of the goat, right? The goat that is when the village is having trouble with their harvest, when the rains don't come, when people are starving, you take a goat and you stake it outside the village and you slaughter the goat, or you allow animals to kill the goat, and that is your scapegoat, right? That's someone you can blame, something you can blame. You get it off of you. When you see the issues in our country right now, some people, like you said, I think probably a small number of people, are looking to blame transgendered people. I mean, it's like this national tragedy that we've had. How many mass shootings this year. 260 or something horrible. I don't have the statistics. And a lot of these are children. I mean, what do we do with that as a nation? It's so grossly unacceptable and sad and tragic, and it's a horror is what it is. It's an unimaginable horror that's actually happening. You know?
Right, and even though, okay, so President Trump turned around at some point during the week. I forget exactly when it was floated, because it hasn't been stated as an official position we're going to yet. But he floated the idea that we basically return trans people to the former list of the mentally ill, and then just straight across the board deny all of them gun rights. So then the NRA steps in and says, we're not going to support anybody losing their gun rights without due process by individual, as you would expect, which is the same.
The NRA.
Well, no, because it's the same problematic.
I don't know.
It's the same problematic. Yeah, it's the same rhetoric we've had for as long as, well, not quite as long as I've been alive. They've gotten a lot more power since the 80s. But the idea that they're just going to make it so that, we're going to make sure there is no meaningful reform. We're not going to, whether or not it's because this completely blown out of proportion, completely inappropriate. Oh, one trans person has now killed 2 people and harmed a couple of dozen others. So we have to make sure trans people don't have guns. Apparently, we can't just do that with the single largest group of people causing the harm, white males, in any number, at any age group. They are still the problem. And the NRA, rather than saying, there's a place here for correction, they're simply just across the board going to say it doesn't matter who you're trying to do it to. We're not going to allow you to deny anybody their due process, which constitutionally is what you want to hear, but structurally ignores the problem.
And how do you change the structure? There's the thing.
No, and that's amazingly simple. We have a Congress for that. Unfortunately, we also have lobbyists for that. And the lobbyists are paying Congress to sit on their hands.
Well, it does bring us. It brings us to the bigger issue. What is the issue with guns? Is it that we just need Congress to pass gun control laws? What is it? Usually it bounces this that way. There's the gun control people, and there's just the problem people with guns. And if you go to the, it's not guns at all, it's just people,
Right. And, let's be clear, we're not going to stop those violent acts entirely. We can cut down the number of people they can harm at once, which would be the value of moving to lower capacity magazines, lower capacity weapons, period. But that sort of ignores that there is a reason we have a Second Amendment right to protect ourselves, to bear arms. We come from we are in a country built by people who came from countries where they were denied access to weaponry, and that was the means by which they were oppressed. And we're standing in the middle of a government right now that really needs some people to remind it that we are fully capable of defending ourselves and fighting back against federal overreach. This is, in my opinion, this is the first time in my life where I've honestly felt like rising up against the government to one degree or another made sense. Just because they make decisions you don't like is no reason to decide the entire federal government needs to be trashed. They're always going to make decisions you don't like. The same way they're going to make decisions I don't like, even though, if you're on the right and I'm on the left, we're not all going to be happy all the time. There's no way for that to be the case. But you aim for that middle ground that allows everybody the most possible good. Right now, Congress isn't working toward the greatest possible good. They're working toward satisfying whoever has the most money to offer them. So yeah, we need gun reform. We certainly need across the board background checks. I don't feel like we need to do anything other than that, because if we have a common sense listing of people whose crimes genuinely make it unsafe for us to be giving them firearms, we're doing as much as we can do. There is the other side of that, which is, why do we make so many guns? Why do we sell so many guns? It's been shown more than once that there are more guns in this country than there are people to carry them. I don't even have an issue with that. If you have a gun and I have a gun, then we both have guns. What are we worried about? Well, we're worried that you're going to go nuts and shoot at me, and then I'm going to have to go nuts and shoot at you, and then Louise next door is going to have to go nuts and figure out which one of the two of us she's going to shoot at, and it's going to get weird. But the thing that happens more often is, and I hate to agree with it, but people are polite around police people they think can do them harm. They may not like you, but if they think you're strapped, they're going to take a step back. They're going to treat you they're either going to treat you more politely or they're going to avoid you entirely, because, those people aren't out here to have a fair fight. Nobody's out here to have a fair fight. They're trying to catch you not paying attention and with more means of firing back than you have, and hopefully win just by sudden force. And in that same
but you would hope that the culture that you lived in would minimize those kind of interactions, that the everyday family structure, the everyday work structure, the way you're treated by the people on the street, all of that is probably more powerful than gun control laws, mental health intervention, all those things that are eroding in our culture right
now. I'm having a little bit of a sound problem here. I was trying to bring something up, and I'm sort of walking sound on top of you. I'm sorry, give me one moment. Okay, I think I'm where I need to be. Go ahead.
I think is more powerful when a culture is very supportive of its children, of its seniors, of its working people, of its
absolutely
of different racial groups, when the culture itself is very, what's the word? It's not divided like it is now. It's not. It's like we've all become individuals, and our social fabric has become much more torn and not as. So you have a 12-year-old boy, which was me, with a .22 rifle. I could walk onto my father's boat and I could shoot at tin cans in the water. My father watched over me. But what was behind all that, and the dear NRA had trained me in gun safety. The
right.
Boy Scouts had trained me. The whole culture from my grandparents was around safety. And there was no ethos of this shooting up the neighborhood or anything. I mean, I might do something incredibly stupid, but it was more likely that I wouldn't do something incredibly venal and incredibly violent directly towards someone else, because I felt this fabric holding me. Two sets of grandparents, my aunts, my uncles, even my dear brother, who is very brutal and very violent. Nevertheless, and the Boy Scouts, the church, and the community, our neighbors, the people who watched over us, it just wouldn't happen there. It could happen there, but it was much less likely for me to get it as a 15-year-old, get a hair up me that said I need to go down to the elementary school and kill people. I mean, it would just be, I wouldn't even think of such a thing, because I wouldn't be on social media seeing it. I wouldn't see that we've had 200 plus mass killings. It wouldn't become wasn't part of our culture then. Now we've arrived there. We're back at the old West, we're back at Dodge City. Everybody's armed. But what did the Dodge City, this may be myth, but didn't the Dodge City, this is what I see in movies, who knows? It's true. Didn't the Dodge City Council decide no guns in the city limits?
Right. Yeah. You see it. You see that all the time. They constantly say that.
Was that true? I don't know.
No. And as far as I know, it was true. Yeah. At some point, it was just, you're not going to have firearms. And I've read that was true across lots of those border towns, that when you came into town, you surrendered your firearms, you got them back on your way out of town. Because people come into town, they get drunk, they have grudges, they don't have, any particular connection to the community, so it doesn't matter to them if they hurt a few people on their way through. Well,
let's face it, people.
Well, for me, that's no different than saying you're not supposed to carry guns at the school. You're not supposed to carry guns at the courthouse. Mm-hmm. In a city the size of San Francisco, Los Angeles, or even Fort Smith, which is a fraction of their size, you're not going to police everybody down to not having a gun in a community these sizes. So that's not even viable. And again, denying everyone access to firearms is exactly what stops you from being able to defend yourself against the government that we are specifically given that right to defend ourselves against. And the other side of that, you see people immediately come at you with you're gonna use your shotgun and you're gonna face off with a tank. No, I'm not gonna use my shotgun and face off with a tank. What people forget is that the members of our military are citizens too. And when it comes down to it, they have the right and the ability to say no to those orders that put them in conflict with me and my shotgun. And there are a bunch of them that are going to be told, hey, you got to go conflict with that guy and his shotgun. They're going to turn around, they're going to get in their tank, they're going to get in their helicopter, they're going to get in their Jeeps, they're going to grab all the weaponry they can get a hold of, and they're going to join the line of people with shotguns. If we ever get into a situation where soldiers are required to directly conflict with citizens, there is going to be a schism throughout our military where soldiers decide which side of the line they're going to be on. And when they go, they're going to abscond with a bunch of that equipment. And my shotgun just becomes a multiplier. His pistol just becomes a multiplier. Their Jeeps and tanks and fully automatic weapons become multipliers. And all of them work together to face off against an out-of-line federal force.
It's a good question. It's interesting you should say all that. Because it never occurred to me, probably somewhere in my brain occurs to me, that we would ever use weapons against the military. I mean, because it's maybe until now, I've never seen the military used against civilians other than, like during the Vietnam War when we let those 19-year-olds have guns no, it was during the Watts riots. We let the National Guard use guns and machine guns. And 30 black folks were killed in that confrontation. 4 white kids were killed at Kent State. So now, is that what the framers had in mind, that we would have guns in order to, because none of that had any effect. Some of the citizens of South Central Los Angeles had firearms, but it didn't stop the National Guard. So I'm not sure. This right to bear arms, I think this is one place you and I do disagree probably, is that it may be personally reassuring, but it would have essentially not much effect if the federal government really decided to go after you. But now I'm wondering, is the federal government now coming after us? I watched what happened in Los Angeles, where people were having a rowdy demonstration, and the Marines and the active duty Marines came to town. In sedate Orange County, where I live, the Marines came to town. And the Marines are quite well thought of here in Orange County. There was no need for them whatsoever. There was no need. I guess you could gin up some kind of a need in Los Angeles. There was some broken windows there and some burning of cars, and in about a 3 square block area of 60 square miles Los Angeles or something. Actually, there was no reason at all. No, it was just Trump doing federal overreach. But would have guns, is that what the framers were talking about? Is when we should use, I'm making the counter argument now. Should we be using guns to deal with the federal government? I don't see that as realistic at all. It sounds like that it's reassuring to you, though.
Reassuring. That's an interesting word, reassuring. It is always reassuring to me to know that I have the means to defend myself, whether or not I can effectively do so is a different ballgame. You can give me a sword and put me in front of Bruce Lee, and I'm still going to get my ass whipped, because Bruce Lee is going to take that sword from me and spank me with it and then do all sorts of other rude things to me, which I deserve for going up against somebody whose skill level is that much higher than mine, in a fashion that suggested it would even slightly be a fair fight. If I'm going to fight Bruce Lee, I'm showing up with 10 other guys and we're all armed, because none of us are going to try to throw punches at Bruce Lee. You're a fucking moron if you think you're winning that fight. Realistically, I'm probably not even going to try to swing a punch at Chuck Norris. But I will defend my family, my home, my neighbors against an invading force, no matter who they are. I don't care if it's a bunch of punk kids from down the street, or a bunch of hooded Klansmen, or some angry cop who for some reason has decided he needs to harass his wife who lives on my block, or a bunch of ICE agents not bothering to identify themselves and trying to snatch children from the bus stop across the street from my house. You have to do what you have to do. And there is a point where it's not just someone made a mistake and we need to be addressing what that mistake was. At some point, it becomes policy to abuse and disenfranchise. And that's where we're at right now. It is all about abuse and disenfranchising the people that can correct the abuse.
Grossly violating people's rights to
Yes.
due process.
And we can continue to hope.
privacy. Yeah.
Yeah, and we can continue to hope that Congress steps in, which they have failed woefully to do to this, point. But I was reading a report. It's from the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Senate Committee, headed by Gary Peters, who's a Democrat out of Michigan, covering the various constitutional infringements that are attached to the Trump administration at this point. Across the board, First Amendment violations, denying people their speech, their right to associate, interfering with religion, Fifth Amendment violations, due process has basically been thrown out the window.
And child abuse, separating parents from their children. I mean, sending the parents both out of the country, leaving a 12-year-old, Newsom was talking about leaving a 12-year-old boy, and his farm worker parents had been there 20 years working in the Central Valley. The 12-year-old boy is crying and in tears for his mother and father, who are now gone somewhere, who knows where, and he's left alone. I mean, this is just, this was caused by Donald Trump and by ICE, and is, to me, the worst moral violation and legal violation. So what do we do about it? It's like, so have you been hearing about the talk of soft succession? Have you heard of that?
Yeah, yeah, and it is an excellent idea. That initial step, because it's an excellent idea because it's already being done to them. Trump is already going out of his way to deny states that have Democratic leadership, that have Democratic leanings. He's already going out of his way to deny them access to federal benefits, to the basic functions that our government owes to every state and every citizen beyond politics. So it absolutely makes sense that if you're going to deny those states access to what they are due, they should stop paying into a system that is not going to give them their rights. So I 100% that, and recognize that we live in a red state that is led by a former not cabinet member, but a former, not media director, the speaker for the president, when they have when they meet with reporters, not speaker, what word am I?
Press conference?
Yeah, when they have the press conferences, the individual who speaks for the White House.
Press secretary?
Carolyn, thank you. Yes, the former press secretary.
Yeah.
Yeah, so our governor is former press secretary Huckabee Sanders. Absolutely tits on a bull. She has done nothing for this state except steal from us. Our state legislature, bright red, has done nothing for the people of this state in terms, their focus is money and more money for a very limited group of people, and turning the rest of us into the means of generating that money for the rest of those people with no individual rights or focus on our ability to make decisions. We just have to do what they say. That's what they want, and they go out of their way to make sure that it stays that way. So yeah, I'm in a bright red state that is going to suffer when the blue states stop putting that money out there. Arkansas is one of those net spender states, like almost every red state is. We take more than we give. And we make decisions every day in this state at the state legislature level that guarantee it's going to stay that way.
I'm wondering how practical it is to do a soft succession. I mean, one of the things, because one of the problems is we pay our like for instance, I'm in California, which is we're a donor state, a net donor state, not by a lot, but a little bit.
Mhm.
How do we effectualize? Is that the right word? How do we
Actually,
make that happen? Because individuals pay their taxes to the federal government. I guess the state government owes the federal government some funds, and I don't know, how practical that is. But the idea is there. There's another idea, which is when you see an ICE agent violating state law, to arrest them. And I haven't noticed that happening yet. But to me, that seems like a great idea. Then the other thing that occurred to me is, what happens when a National Guard general is given an illegal order by Trump, and let's say Newsom says that the court, for instance, it was shown that sending troops to Los Angeles was illegal on the part, was found to be illegal by a federal district court. I think the appeals judge, I don't know if the appellate
yeah.
judge also agreed with that. Yeah.
Well, it's on its way. All of this stuff is on its way to the Supreme Court to be abused further by his pets on the Supreme Court.
Wouldn't that be? I hope. Oh my God, that will there we're going to have a crisis. Because what I would want Newsom to say,
crisis. We are well inside that crisis.
we're yeah, that's what I want to believe. There's not a crisis. There's being a self-satisfied white male, I can just try to pretend, but it's like, no, I don't. I believe we are in a crisis. And what I want Newsom to do is, when that general is again told to send troops to that these are nationalized troops, I want him to disobey that order.
Yes.
And I was a National Guard officer. I would want, but now it's easy to talk because I'm not anymore.
Right.
It's really hard when you're really risking something when you disobey an order like that.
Yes.
But I would like that general, I think he's what is he, a major general or something, that's head of the California National Guard. I'd like him to say, no, that is an illegal order, President Trump, and I know I'm not going to do that. And these troops, but this is very, very dangerous ground when you start asking units to decide who they're. I mean, this is what goes on in third world countries and in dictatorships. Dividing up who owns the armored divisions. Who has the suddenly colonels and generals become very powerful.
Right.
Like.
But that's still what I was saying earlier. Eventually, by handling business the way Trump is handling business, he's going to force troops to start making those decisions. And it will come down to, the general said this, the squadron commander said this, the unit commander said this, the individual guys in the unit said this, and it breaks. You got guys on one side of the line going, the order's not illegal, we're going to follow it. You got guys on the other side of the line saying the order is absolutely illegal and there's no way I'm following it. And, like I said, you get a bunch of guys that load up and head out and say, okay, we're going to go comply with this illegal order. And then you got a bunch of guys who stay behind and go, and I'm taking jeeps and ammunition. I'm going back to my mom's house up in the hills, or, I'm going to go join my family on XYZ area. And you guys can come back and be like, hey, we're missing, 10 crates of M16s, A1s, whatever. The guns are just, M15s, the guns are gone. What do we do?
And when did this actually happen in our country?
Oh, no.
Well, it did happen. It happened during the Civil War. You had the West Point graduating class deciding who was violating the law. Was the South in violation, or was the North in violation by not allowing the South to succeed. And each class divided along that. Many of them went to the South. Many of them went to the North. A lot of armories were taken by the South. A lot of the armories were maintained by the North. Everybody started dividing up and fighting with each other. And that I don't want to see ever in this country again.
No, I don't want to see it either, but I would rather see that than us just walk quietly into dictatorship, which is,
exactly.
and it still feels like that is what we are doing. It has taken 6 months for the courts to start doing what they should have done with the very first order. The first time he came out of, where is that list? I had a list of January 20th. Declared a national emergency at the southern border, issued executive order seeking to end birthright citizenship, plans to strip employment protections for federal workers. It's a long list of just stuff that he did on January 20th. And of the list that I'm looking at, I say half of these things are clear and obvious violations of constitutional right. And, so they say, the court has to wait till somebody who has standing comes in and then they file and da-da-da and you dance. With
and you flood the zone.
Yeah, well, yeah, as they say, you flood the zone. But even then, our courts were not going, like our courts didn't jump on it. And I understand that it's hard to believe that the stuff that he did has worked out for him as well as it has. You would expect the courts to squash most of what he did. And most of those efforts to squash it have taken this long to make their way through the court. As you said, flood the zone. That has been their philosophy for a while. And in the end, most of what runs this country is just a series of gentlemen's agreements.
Yeah, that's the thing.
The only thing that to date that I have felt like should have happened under Biden to fix the foreseeability of what we're dealing with right now was as soon as the Supreme Court said the president can do no wrong. If you are a sitting president, you cannot commit a crime. Biden should have immediately turned around and gone to Congress and said, fix this. Write the law so that I can sign it that says every president is always responsible for his actions. No one is above the law. Write that so I can sign it and we can protect our country. Everything else, you could, cockeyed one way or another, it is what it is, but that one should have been plugged the day our shitty Supreme Court decided to go in that direction. And we are well aware that we're going to have to wait till midterms to fix almost everything else that's going on right now. All these proclamations that he's doing, all these overreaches he's going through with his executive orders, these direct violations of constitutional rights that the Supreme Court is allowing to continue. We're going to have to have we're going to have to roll over both the House and the Senate in order to see these issues corrected. And then the question is, will we correct them? If the Democrats come flooding in November, will they actually do anything, or will they just sit back the way they're already sitting back?
Some of them aren't sitting back. Like
the majority.
You got to have. Newsom is not sitting back.
I'm not talking Congress. I'm talking Congress.
But if we get a presidential candidate that says, on day one, I will reverse every single one. See, I have them lined up. 194 executive orders will be reversed on day one. I mean, that's. I think what we're learning is that you have to fight fire with fire. And that's, I think some Democrats are starting to wake up to that, but not the whole. We still have these reasoned, and I'm a very reasonable guy. I want to be reasonable. And some of the senators like Murphy makes very good, reasonable arguments. But reason is not going to move people, unfortunately, in this climate. It has to be loud, attention-getting, resolute action, and to somehow stay within the Constitution while you're doing it. You know, I mean, for instance, I suspect the British sounded very reasonable as they were oppressing the colonists, and then the colonists were, freaking out, throwing tea into Boston Harbor and doing all kinds of political theater and that sort of thing. And it's time for the Democrats to do all kinds of political theater, and it's time for them to take a lot of symbolic actions. And for all of us to turn out in demonstrations, and any chance you have an opportunity to protest, to make a statement. I mean, this is kind of what we're doing today, I think, is in our little part of the world, our little tiny part of the internet, is making some kind of a statement.
No, that is the general Democratic problem, where we're more about making statements and taking action. Today, and I guess it was today and yesterday in Chicago, they're talking about how they have rolled out all of the road equipment, and they're using it to block off sections of the city so that ICE agents can't get into them. Technically, nobody can get in them. I guess you got to park somewhere and walk your happy ass in.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Is it really going to work? I mean, can they really block off the city that well? Like I saw the trucks lined up, the salt trucks,
Yes.
They were lined up, but then I saw traffic going by them, so I'm not quite sure how that was going to work.
And what I assume is that they're bottlenecking it. People in town don't use the main thoroughfares. Go use the side roads. The ICE agents are having to come in from somewhere outside town, and you're bottlenecking them so that they can only come in certain positions, and then you can just stop them, which is one of the things that happened today. They had a bunch of ICE agents who were circling town trying to get in, but they were being blocked at all the exits, and they had no choice but to just turn around and leave. That requires the active involvement of your city government. They have to say, we're going to put cops on all these exits. We're going to put workers on all these exits. And when you see the ICE vehicle show up, you just don't let them through. And you stop traffic until such time as the ICE guys decide to turn around and go the other way. And then everybody else can make their way in.
Now, that'll be a violation of federal law, though.
Okay.
That's impeding ICE. That's impeding the. Here we go. But that's good news, isn't it? That's action.
If the action that if you have every reason to believe they're coming in to commit unconstitutional acts themselves, you're not violating any law. You are as agents of law enforcement, you are allowed to stop someone from committing a crime when you realize they're going to commit it. You don't have to wait for him to shoot someone to say, that guy's angry, he has a gun, and he's going to screw up before the day is over. It's time to corner him, get him calmed down, get that weapon away from him, or at least talk to him about what it is he thinks he's out here doing. If he walks down the street with the gun in his hand screaming, I'm going to kill Tony, okay, you're done now. And that is what ICE is doing right now. They're walking down the street screaming they're going to kill Tony, because we have seen them kill how many Tonys already? We don't have to wait for them to kill the next Tony to say whatever you're up to is inappropriate. You don't belong here.
Okay, should the Chicago, okay, so let's say an ICE agent gets through. I think they will. They'll find a way to walk through.
Yeah, they'll eventually get through.
And we find them beating I don't know what they're doing.
They find some guy, tackle him, decide to take him in.
they tackle an American citizen, let's say that, decide to take him in. Should the Chicago police arrest that ICE agent?
We actually don't even need to go that far. They don't need to tackle a citizen. They're tackling random people with no true knowledge of whether or not those people are citizens, non-citizens, anybody. They just walk up, grab somebody, and start.
Because they have brown skin.
Yeah, yeah. That's your mode to step in. Who are you guys, and why are you here? I'm a cop in this town, and there are laws I have to follow. If you are a government agency, there are laws you have to follow. Let me see your warrant. And if you don't have a warrant, what you just did was assault and attempted kidnapping.
So should the Chicago police arrest them?
Yes. They should
I wonder
absolutely.
if that'll happen. I think they should too. I wonder if that'll happen. I would like to see it, but.
Well, and it does happen. It happens all the time. Government agents, officers. We get that funny story every once in a while where there's federal drug enforcement guys and city drug enforcement guys, and they're doing drug deals with each other because they don't realize what side of the line each guy's on. And then it comes time to make an arrest, and you got city guys fighting with federal guys, and everybody's talking about, you get down, no, you get down, you get down, you drop your weapon, no, you drop your weapon. And then somebody ends up getting arrested because somebody has to shut up and give in so that they can sort it out. Yeah, it happens all the time, and it's absolutely going to happen again. And this is a situation where the city should be condoning. They should be encouraging this to happen. When you go out on the streets, if they do not have warrants for the individuals they are trying to take, if they are not identifying themselves, they are part of the problem. Take them down. And you don't even have to take them down. If the cops step in and go, you don't have a warrant for this man, he's not leaving here with you, get back in your vehicles and go. The ICE agents won't be happy about that, but if they're looking at a wall of 50 cops to their 6 agents, they're going to leave. They're going to leave the same way that if they get surrounded by enough citizens, and those citizens are really making it clear that they're willing to do harm to those agents, unless they let go of the person they've got, they leave. And eventually, the real fear there is that eventually there's going to be an agent who decides to put somebody down. He's going to hit somebody with the wrong weapon. He's going to fire shots, and then all hell's going to break loose. And whether that ends with a bunch of ICE agents handcuffed on a sidewalk or a bunch of ICE agents dead because the crowd got to them.
But it means the police, the local state police being willing to enforce the law. And the governor's got to say yes to do that. Or the mayor needs to say yes to do that.
Well, the mayor needs to let them know that he has their back. They only have to do their job. And when somebody walks up to a random citizen with no cause, slams them to the ground, throws them in handcuffs, and throws them into the back of a vehicle with no legitimate legal right, with no legitimate legal documentation that says they're even supposed to be there doing what they're doing, it is the job of the police to step in. It just is.
That seems right to me. But that's when federalism becomes tested. Where we actually have 50 separate little kingdoms that are under this, not kingdoms, let's call them 50 little governments that are sitting underneath the federal government. And what happens when 20 of them decide that the federal government is violating the law? And but we've kind of been talking on the big picture, a little bit of the local. But how on earth do we protect our trans brothers, sisters from this craziness that's going to go? Those 2 people that were with us on our last podcast, is Zoe and Zach. How do we protect our friends in a situation like this? I like what you said, which was that it's a very tiny minority of people who have this anti-trans hate going on. But it is part of a bigger picture of suppression and hate. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I guess what I want to do is to keep speaking up and to take whatever action I can on the local level. I've got a couple of trans friends, and I'm hoping they know that I'm going to be there for them if this shit starts locally for them, you know. And I
Right.
hope Zoe and Zach are safe. That's what I want. I don't know if they are or not. I hope they feel relatively safe, but I don't know.
Yeah.
Do you feel like they're safe?
They are safe where they are safe. I think that's the answer to the question. Here in the city of Fort Smith, we go out of our way to make sure that everybody's rights are acknowledged. Over the last 10 years, the city fathers have gone a long way towards
Really?
acknowledging just the breadth of human rights. They were always willing to do that when it came to Klansmen coming down out of the hills, Nazis coming down out of the hills and wanting to do speeches, have parades. They were always, hey, they're not hurting anybody and they're allowed, it's freedom of speech. They were less, and in the past, they were less accommodating with the rights of everybody else, or I should say of the liberal to progressive side of the street. That's balancing out a lot more lately. Our police force is covering a broader group of humanity. Their rules of engagement have drifted enough, have been shifted enough that you have no reason to believe a cop in Fort Smith isn't going to follow, at the very worst, the letter of the law, and at the very best, the spirit of the law. You can believe that the cops are, for the most part, going to follow the spirit of the law. I still have issues with them. I could list problems that I have had, problems that I have seen. But I think you could generally trust the police in this city to look out for the best interest of the people. And if someone is harassing or attacking someone for their race, for their sexuality, for whatever, I believe you can expect the police here to act on where the violation actually lies. Where I know there are people who have plans to protect people that ICE would target just because of the way they look, and I know that's true on my block. We've had conversations on this street about what to do, because and ICE has been here in town, but they have not been down this area. They've not been on this side of town. And we've had conversations about, what everybody needs to do. Not everybody, but the people involved have had conversations about what they need to do and what defense they can expect from their neighbors. That has also been true of the few houses on the block that fly a rainbow flag. If somebody is giving you grief, I'm just down the street. You have my number. You can stay in the house and I can come down. And I'm happy to do that. Why are you in front of these people's house? Why are you making all this noise? There's children around here. You need to go. This isn't whatever it is you think you're doing. It isn't going to end well for you. This isn't what we do in this neighborhood. Go away. And you keep them busy until the cops show up. And then the cops can deal with them. Why are you on these people's doorstep? You need to move on.
And would the Fort Smith police intervene if they did not have a warrant? Let's say you have a factory worker in the house of your neighbor, and somebody comes to the man comes to the door without a warrant. Would the Fort police intervene?
And that's the discussion that we had. If the people show up on your doorstep with their masks, you don't go near the door. You don't answer the door. You don't, you don't give them anything. But you call, you let the rest of us know that there is something that needs to be done. Why are you on those people's doorstep? Do you have a judicial warrant that says someone in that house should be leaving with you? I have to admit that I am not above cutting the stems of some tires. They only carry one spare. You take out enough tires, they can't take anybody anywhere. They've run out of vehicles to leave in. Although in this neighborhood,
let's not admit to something that's going to get you in trouble here.
Oh, well, we haven't done anything. We're just saying what we're willing to do. We haven't done that. It's not a crime to say I am willing to interfere. And really, even if that's going to get me the attention of anybody in authority, we've had at least 3 other shows that put me in that same bottle already. So I'm boned. But that's fine. And that's fine. I would rather go out fighting the good fight. You know, it's that same thing. I'd rather die fighting than live on my knees. I hope to get a
Well,
good.
amen on that. We're out of time now, and we thank you.
Oh,
Now we can't shut up, but we'll try. And thank you for attending here, the Church of the Open Mouth. We have both done a lot of talking. This is good. And the cool thing in America is that speech is free still, and that we are lucky enough to be able to give our opinions. And that we live in a democracy still, sort of, that's under direct attack, under direct threat from the federal government and from our president. And we ask for your support in taking care of our gay, lesbian, transgendered brothers and sisters. We ask for your support in taking care of your neighbor who may be of a different color than you, who may be of a different religion than you, who may be somehow different. Take care of them, stand next to them, stand with them, as we will stand with you. And thanks for listening. Bye for now.